morning. Got my assistant here. How's that? Is that better?
Yeah.
Great. Good morning. My name is Shawn Smith. I'm the State Director for the Senior Medicare Patrol, and I appreciate you guys having me back again. Today, I think I was here the last time we talked about common healthcare scams. And so this morning, we're actually going to talk about email scams in a presentation we call, Can You Trust That Email? And so I'm assuming you folks here all have email or have an email address where you check in your emails. And so today, just by way of agenda, we're going to go over, first of all, just kind of what the S&P is, or the Senior Medicare Patrol. And then we're going to look at some email scams and some examples of some email scams, and then talk about ways to handle those scams. But hopefully you guys will learn how to recognize or find ways to determine whether or not scams are, or whether or not emails are legitimate or might be illegitimate. And so as we go through this presentation, feel free to raise your hand. I think this is a small enough crowd where if you guys raise your hand and if you have a question, I can answer it as we go through. If any of you guys are like me, if you hold on to the question too long, you'll forget it. And then tomorrow during breakfast, it'll be like, oh, that's the question I had. So I don't want that to happen. I want to make sure I try to answer your questions as quickly as I can so that we can all hear the answer and hopefully learn something from it. Let's see here. So first of all, the Senior Medicare Patrol is a program, and its whole focus is to empower seniors, their family members, as well as their caregivers to prevent, detect, and report healthcare errors, healthcare fraud, and healthcare abuse. And we do that through outreach, we do that through education, and we do that through one-on-one counseling. And so the program itself is sponsored by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and they provide grants to all 50 states to run a program like this. So this is a nationwide program. It covers 50 states plus 4 U.S. territories. And so there's a Senior Medicare Patrol all over so that every senior has access to this program. And so they all do education, they all do outreach, they all do one-on-one counseling, they all have a 1-800 hotline where seniors can call and get assistance. And then they all are partner with the Office of the Inspector General because we're trying to catch fraud and hopefully stop people from committing fraud. And so in Virginia, the organization that received the grant is called the Virginia Association of Area Agencies on Aging. And so there are area agencies on aging around the state of Virginia. There are actually 25 agencies. And so we partner with all 25 of those agencies to run this program. And so in each of those agencies, we have paid and volunteer staff that do outreach, meaning they go into the community, and they'll set up tables at various events, whether it's a festival or some senior event, or maybe it's your church doing some type of resource fair. We'll set up tables and give out resources like the bags that we gave you today. But we also do educational programming. So like I said, the last time I was here, we talked about common healthcare scams. Today, we're talking about email scams, but we also have presentations on things like text scams. We talk about artificial intelligence scams. We talk about a vast array of the imposter scams that are happening. But we also do things like teach seniors how to read their Medicare summary notices so they can also detect scams. And so we have a number of educational products that we like to share with seniors wherever we go. And then we do one-on-one counseling. So as I said, there's an 800 hotline where seniors can call and get free assistance if they feel like they're a victim of scams. So if you look at the front of the bag that I gave you, there's an 800 number on there. And then also on just about everything that's in that bag, you'll find that 800 number. And so when you guys call us to say maybe you got a Medicare summary notice or an explanation of benefits where things on there look funny or look fraudulent or doesn't look like they should look or doesn't look familiar, we'll work with you to try to get those things rectified, figure out whether it's an error, whether it's abuse, or whether it's fraud, and we help you to get those things fixed. We do that through a number of ways. We can give you some simple instructions, or we can make some phone calls with you. We do 3-way calls with seniors all the time to try to get those errors fixed. Some seniors will say that, I don't have the energy today to start making these phone calls. If you give us the proper authorization, we'll make those phone calls on your behalf, call you back, and we'll walk with you through that process. All of this service is a free service because, again, we're sponsored by the Department of Health and Human Services because they want to make sure that we are working with our seniors to make sure that they're safe from scams, but also if they get caught up in those scams, we get those things rectified and keep the Medicare money in the Medicare system. And so finally, as we talk about the educational piece, We love to come out and share information with seniors. So while we're certainly here in the Kendal today, we love to show up at church groups, women's groups, men's groups, Rotary meetings, any type of meetings where there might be seniors. We will come out and share this information. It's a free service. We give out resources wherever we go. We even say we'll come to your cookout. If you've got some seniors there, as long as you share your hot dogs and your hamburgers with us, we'll show up. Because again, we want seniors to get this information. So that's the Senior Medicare Patrol. Now we're going to talk about 5 clues to recognizing email scams. Now as we go through this presentation, if you have a smartphone and you get your email on your phone, you can follow through with some of the things we're talking about and see these things on your smartphone to help you figure out what the scams are happening. And so we're going to look at 5 things. We're going to look at the request for action for emails, also who sent the email, who's the recipient of the email. We're going to look at the greeting of the email as well as the grammar of the email. So all of those things are various ways that you can tell whether or not an email is a legitimate email or whether it might be a scam or a fraudulent email. And so we're going to dive into each of those. And first I want to talk about a request for action. So this is one of the key ways that we can determine whether or not this could be a fraud or a scam email. So I think you guys are my age or older where you remember when we had mailboxes and we would get junk mail in the mailboxes. Every day there's a pile of junk mail. And so there's a difference between junk mail and scam mail. And so I want to make that distinction for you guys. Junk mail, you probably get things like advertisements or sales notifications. Maybe it's a newsletter for something that you signed up, or maybe you did not sign up for it. Maybe updates from various groups or people or organizations that you know, or they ask you to register for something. This is just junk mail. So as you can imagine, if you send things through the regular mail, that costs money. You got to put a stamp on that. But with email, those things are free. And so you might get a lot of these things coming to your mailbox every day. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's a scam. It could be just junk mail coming to your mailbox. Scam mail, on the other hand, is usually going to have a request for some type of urgent action. And so a lot of times the urgent action kind of gets you kind of riled up a little bit. It kind of scares you because what the scammers want to do is they want to kind of get you emotionally charged. When we are emotional about things, we tend to not think as clearly. And so one of their tactics is to try to get us emotionally wrapped up into whatever they're trying to tell us to do. So there's usually, with the scam mail, an urgent request for action. It could be updating your credit card. You might see an email where it says, uh-oh, your credit card was declined and we need to update that information. Or they may be asking you to provide some other sensitive information, but it's all very urgent. And so the first way to tell whether or not you're getting a scam email is that it's an urgent action. It's a quick request. They want you to do something quickly, and typically it revolves around sharing either sensitive information or money. Sensitive information would be things like your name, your address, your credit card number, or your account number, or they want you to update your password and your email address. So anytime they're asking you to take this urgent action, it should be the first kind of red flag or first question mark. What they also might be asking you to do is view or download a document or press a link. Because when you press those links and those downloaded documents in those emails, they may tell you it's one thing, but it could be something very dangerous. Some of those links will say, oh, go to our registration site and re-enter your name and password. And really what they're telling you is when you hit that link, it could be downloading malware to your computer, or it could be putting some type of malware on your computer where they can see what's happening on your computer, or giving them access to your computer. And so they want you to hit that link. They want to make it urgent so that you're quickly running to it and hitting that button, and then that gives them what they need to steal from you, whether stealing information from you or stealing money from you. If they're asking you to download a document or to look at a document, those are the things that you really, really want to be cautious of. And so we tell folks, never click on those links, never download those documents. If you're not sure where it's coming from and it's an urgent action, then you want to take a breath, take a beat, and think about what it is they're asking you to do and verify some information. But typically, again, the note here is an urgent call for action is going to be the first sign that it could be a scam email. All right, I'm sure we've all seen that already before. The next thing we want to look at, so let's say it is an urgent request for action. Let's say they're telling us, oh my gosh, you need to update your email and your password, or your username and your password, because you're logged out of your account. The first thing we want to do is look at who's sending this email to me. Now, it can tell you a lot of different things. You may think it's coming from Amazon or someone you have an account with, but you want to examine that. The question is, does the email address match the sender? Typically, when there's an email address, and what you really want to look at in an email address is what comes after the @ sign. Not what comes before, but what comes after the @ sign. Is the server name spelled correctly? What's after the @ sign is what they call the server name. That's who's sending the email to you. That's the organization's actual private server who's sending that email to you. You want to make sure that that matches the provider or whoever the service provider is, and that it's spelled correctly. We're going to look at some examples of this in just a moment. So legitimate emails will have matching or familiar server names that match who it is they say they're sending it. So if we look at an email, we know that there's 3 parts to an email address. So the first part is the sender name, there's the @ sign, and then there's the sender server. The sender name can be anything we want it to be. So when you think about your own email address, you've made up the front part of that email, right? Everything in front of that email, you made up. Anybody can make up anything. It could be your name and your initials. It could be Hot Lady 25. It could be whatever you want it to be. But what's behind that @ sign is always the same. Hotmail.com, gmail.com, Comcast.net, AOL.com. That's the server that it came from, and that's telling you exactly where that email is coming from. So that sender name could be M. Jones, because you make that up, or it could be returns. Yes, sir.
Just an example, I have gotten from at least 2 different senders, but one of the false senders had been a resident here. And that may be a little quicker to check on it, to click on it, to read it.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about exactly how you do that. But yeah, that they can make up anything they want in the front of this email address. And typically, what's in the front is kind of what shows up at the top. It may not show you the whole email address, but it may show you what's in the front of that email address. So again, in front of that @ sign could be returns, it could be billing. They can make it say anything they want. Customer service, you may have seen all this. But then what comes at the end is always should match who the actual sender is. So if it's Amazon sending you something, the end of the email address should always contain the Amazon.com. The reason that is because those sender addresses are private and no one can duplicate them. So only Amazon can use Amazon.com. Only Apple can use Apple.com. And Walmart, only Walmart can use Walmart.com. And then only Target can use Target.com. But look at that. What does that say? There's a mistake. So that says what? Targent. And so this is what scammers will do. Because they can't use Target.com, they'll use something like this that looks really close to Target to make you think that it's actually Target. And so in the front, they may say this is Target, but then if you look at the email address, it may actually say Targent, or if it's American Express, it may have 2 X's instead of 1. And so you really want to look at the email address to where it's coming from, because that will tell you exactly whether or not it's coming from the actual server of the sender, or whether it's coming from someone who's trying to imitate that server or that sender. You might see something like this, where it's just a bunch of random letters that you don't know where it's coming from or what that says. And again, they can put anything they want in the front. So if you just look at the front of that email, it says, oh, it says Apple, so it must be coming from Apple. But then you end up with the problem because at the back, it does not say apple.com. Same thing is true with Amazon. I've seen this before. Sometimes they're sending you advertisements, or advertising companies are asking you to do things. Sometimes it could be fraudulent. Sometimes it could be legitimate. Sometimes it could be just information harvesting. They may send you a survey. Hey, fill out this survey and you could win a prize. They're collecting your information so that they can sell it. And so if you fill out that survey, they're gonna ask you at some point for your name and your email address and all of that stuff. And they're gonna sell that information. And guess who they're gonna sell it to? Advertisers and scammers. And so we say, don't fill out those surveys when they come. All right, so this is an actual email that came to me. This is from Amazon, apparently. And it's coming to me also as it's supposed to. And so basically they're telling me, I'm gonna see if I can blow some of this up. We're gonna look at the top. So if you look in the body of the email, it says Amazon, a message from customer service, but I'm gonna blow up the top portion right up here so you can see it a little bit better. So it says, notice Amazon/accounts AJG at, and it's not coming from Amazon.com. It's coming from alerts at somethingbackThere.com. And so I know that that is not an Amazon email. Had I only looked at the email portion of it, I would have quickly assumed that it's Amazon. And they were saying someone's trying to log into your account. They want me to click on the link so I can update my password. But had I not looked and examined where it was coming from, then I could have hit that link and I don't know where I could have went. All right, so again, when you look at the email address at the top, it shows me right after, it shows me right at the top that that is not Amazon.com. All right, we look at another one. They're telling me, oh no, my Prime benefits are on hold to a billing issue. They want me to hit that big yellow button to update my account. Where do you think that, this is a scam email, so where do you think that button goes? It goes to the scammer's website, and then I'm gonna put in my login information, and then my credit card information, and then they'll have it. At the top, it says notice, like, oh, hey, here's an important notice. But if you click on that email address at the top, it'll show you the actual email address. I'm gonna blow that up. So if you right-click on the email, the from email, or where it's coming from, it'll show you the full email. So I'm gonna blow that up so you can see the full email address. And notice that email address does not say Amazon.com. It says a bunch of letters and some numbers at lockedaccountsecurity.com. Lockedaccountsecurity.com is not Amazon.com. Everybody see that? Scary. Let's see here. Oh, something just happened. There we go. So this is an actual email. I'm going to go back. All right, so this is an actual email from Amazon. It says Amazon. I've right-clicked on the top where it says Amazon.com. I'm going to blow that up for you. And if you notice, it says store news at Amazon.com. So I know that that's legitimately coming from Amazon. All right, any questions on that? All right, the next thing you want to look at is whether or not, or to determine whether or not email might be legitimate, is the recipient info, meaning who's receiving the email, who's the email addressed to. And so are you the recipient of the email? It showed up in your box, but are you the recipient of that email? Is the email addressed to you, or is it addressed to you and other people is the question. Does your address appear in the CC line or the BCC line of the email? Do you guys know what CC and BCC stand for? CC stands for carbon copy and BCC stands for blind carbon copy. We'll talk about that in a second. So real emails will be addressed to you and no one else if it's an important, urgent action for you to take. And you should appear in the to line of the email. And so I'll show you what we mean. So there are a few parts. At the top, it'll say to, meaning the email, who's the email being sent to? It should always be sent to your name or your email address in that to line. In the BCC line, again, that stands for blind carbon copy. And what that means is they've taken this email and they sent it to more than you. They sent it to you and other people, but we've blinded it so you can't see who those other people are. And so all you can see is your name or maybe your email address, and we sent it to other people, but we're not showing you who the other people are. You should never appear in the blind CC line if it's a legitimate email. They shouldn't be blind carbon copying anything. It means it's mailed to you and others, and or might say something like undisclosed recipients. Have you guys seen that on emails before? Excellent. And then there might be a reply to line. This is not always in all emails, but sometimes it's in emails. It should always reply back to the original sender, not reply to anybody else, should not reply to yourself. If there is a reply to line, it should reply back to the original sender. All right, so we're going to look at a few emails. We just saw this email where they're telling me my prime benefits are on hold. Again, I'm going to blow up what's going on at the top up here. I think, so yeah, you guys can see that. So it says, who's it going to? Undisclosed recipient. So that's telling me that there's a number of people they've sent it to, and they're just not telling me who it is. And then that email address in the blind carbon copy line, that's actually my email address, revsls1@comcast.net. That's my email address. But I'm appearing in the blind carbon copy line. Now they're telling me that my benefits are on hold because of some account error or some credit card error. They want me to update. But why are they sending this email to other people if it's my account? Does that make sense? And so again, if it's something urgent like this and they're asking for information, you should appear in the to line, and you should never appear in the blind carbon copy line. Here's another one. They're telling me again that someone's trying to break into my account. They've got my email address in the middle of the email. But when you look up here at the top, it's going to me. Okay, that's great. But who's supposed to reply to? Supposed to reply to myself. Now, why would I reply to myself? Again, this is what scammers, sometimes they don't get this right, and we end up in lines like this, and that's how we know there's a scam happening. Things just aren't flowing the way they're supposed to. All right, any questions about that? Okay, and here's another one. This is Amazon, and again, I'm gonna blow that up there. This is super simple. Who are they sending it to? They're sending it right to me, right? There are no blind carbon copies, there are no reply tos, it's coming right to my account, and they're really not asking me for something other than they want me to buy something else. So we looked at urgent call for action, we looked at who the sender is, we looked at who the recipient is. What we're gonna look at next is the greeting of the email. So how are they addressing you in the email? Do they greet you by your name? If you're spending money with them, they typically want to greet you by your name. Does it say dear customers? Does it say hello? Is the greeting missing altogether? That's a question you want to ask. Legitimate emails, especially if they're asking you to do something urgent with sensitive information and you have a relationship with the merchant, they often will greet you using your name. So, going back to this one. Update your Prime benefits. Now, I will tell you, Amazon knows exactly who I am. I order from them way too much. They're at my door every other day. And so they know how to find me. But look at what they say. They say, oh no, your Prime benefits on hold due to a billing issue, update your payment information, and then it just says, hello. They don't have my name in there. They don't have my email address in there. They don't have anything that identifies me individually and personally. And so that's a big red flag to me, because again, Amazon knows me. I blew that up, not that I needed to, but. This one here, notice what they say. This again, someone's trying to log into my account, but look what it says. How's the greeting? Dear customers. Who are these customers they're talking about, right? Like, why are they saying dear customers? Again, that's a little bit of a grammatical error, but again, it makes you question, like, who are they sending this to? And that's a big red flag that it's a scam. This is Amazon, and they say, hello, Shawn, we want you to buy something else, right? And so we know that this is directed towards me, but also it gives me a good indication that this is more than likely legitimate. All right, The last thing we're gonna look at is the grammar of the email. What does the email actually say? Does the email use proper grammar? Are there grammatical errors in the email, or are there spelling errors in the email? And they're getting a lot better at correcting these errors because they're using a lot of AI now. But legitimate emails, these big companies, Amazon, Apple, Walmart, they spend a lot of money to get emails and information correct. They don't send out things with grammatical errors. And if they do, they often send you a second email and say, oh, there was an error in our last email. But if you see an error in an email, what we tend to do is we tend to look at it and say something like, it's just a spelling error. But we don't want to bypass those things quickly because that could be an indication that it is a scam. The reason that we have that issue is because a lot of these scams originate overseas, that people that speak other languages and they don't know English. And either they're trying to translate it because of the little English that they do know, or they're running it through translators, and we know that every word in one language doesn't always directly translate to the same word in a different language. And so, because they don't know our language that well, they read over it and they don't realize that there's an error in there, but it's grammar that we would never use. And so if you read this particular email, I'm gonna let you find the error in here. I'm gonna throw that up. You guys are laughing, found it already. Where's the error?
Yeah,
Where? Your Amazon account, where placed on hold, instead of what's placed on hold, right? And so when I read that, I could bypass that and be like, oh, it's just a spelling error. But again, that's an indication that it could be a scam. And so I don't wanna just bypass it, I just wanna think about it. Like, let me look at some other stuff. Yes, sir?
In the example you used before this one, there was a spelling error.
We're gonna get to that one.
Okay.
Yep, you got it. See, he's catching it already. Is this the one you're talking about? Can you guys find the error here?
Yeah.
Raise your hand if you found it. Yell it out.
Into. Word.
Unauthorized.
Oh.
There is no English word for un. In the second sentence, we believe that an unauthorized party. And so again, spelling error lets me know that there's a problem there. And so looking at those types of things carefully, reading it carefully, again, all indications. Now, we looked at 5 different things. We looked at whether or not it's an urgent request for action. We looked at who the sender is, looked at who the recipient is, we looked at the greeting, and we looked at the grammar. If you can't get past the first one, which is who the sender is, and that email or that server name is incorrect, you can almost stop there and guarantee that it's gonna be a scam. Otherwise, I do the looks like a duck rule. If 3 or 4 of these things are incorrect, then it's probably gonna be a scam. If 2 or 3 of these things are incorrect, then it's likely that it's a scam, and you wanna ask questions, you wanna do some research. But what you don't wanna do is click on anything or download anything. So we're gonna look at a few emails. I'm gonna show you some things. I'm not gonna say anything. You guys have to tell me whether or not you think it's real or whether it's fake. And don't just look at, I want you to look for all 5 things we talked about. Urgent request for action, sender information, recipient information, greeting, and grammar. Alrighty? So here's the first one. And I think I'm gonna blow something up so that you can see it. What am I gonna blow up? Now this one actually, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna blow up the top. So we'll start up there. So what do you guys think? You had your hand up. Tell me why you think it's a scam.
Because it doesn't say at apple.com. It's added in intl.apple.com.
That's a good call out. What else?
It's not to me though, it's to store.
Exactly. It's to Apple.
Oh, Apple.
And who is blind carbon copy?
You.
I'm blind carbon copy. So that's the first red flag. So the fact that they're sending my email to Apple is a big question mark. Now, I'll tell you, this one almost got me. this is one of the tactics that scammers use. So basically, they're sending me an invoice telling me thank you for your purchase. And when I looked at it, I was like, wait, I don't think I purchased this. Like, what's going on? And so I almost clicked the link at the bottom where it said cancel or manage subscriptions. And I stopped for a minute because if you read this, nothing on here says Apple. It's got the little symbol,
Logo.
it's got the logo, but then, and to this young lady's point, only in the to line, it doesn't say apple.com, that is going to apple.com. So again, they're just doing all these things to try to throw me off. And so instead of clicking, I went to my Apple account and I looked at all the purchases and that wasn't one of them. And so they want you to think, wait a minute, I didn't buy that. They took money from me. Let me go in and figure it out. And so they either want me to click on the link to figure out what's going on, which is going to send me to one of their websites where I have to enter in some information, which they're going to, in that case, steal information from me. Yes, sir.
Wouldn't the preface to apple.com cause you to look twice at it?
It would.
There's a preface to.
Absolutely. And sometimes, depending on, so as you can imagine, a huge company like Apple or other places will have various departments. And so the apple.com in there, the preface to that could be to a particular department. But the fact that they have apple.com in the to line is the biggest red flag for me. And then have me in the blind carbon copy line. Those are the biggest red flags. Everybody understand that? All right, we're gonna look at another one. And I think I'm gonna blow some stuff up here. All right, so let's look at it. I'll blow that up. Thoughts? Fake or real? Who says fake? Why do you say
And
fake?
it should have a .com after the Crate and Barrel.
So I think I'm gonna blow up where it says Crate and Barrel at the top. Oops, I don't blow it up. So the actual email address is crateandbarrel.com. This is real. This is just an advertisement. They're not asking for any urgent action, right? They're just telling me that they want me to start brewing some coffee. It's sent directly to me. I'm not in the blind carbon copy line, and the reply to line says Crate and Barrel. And if I were to right click on the Crate and Barrel at the top, it would say something like advertisement at crateandbarrel.com.
Why does it have, on the to line,
Mhm.
why does it have two of you?
It just depends on your mail server. So if I put in, sometimes if I'm sending an email to someone, it'll show it as the email address, and then it'll also show it in parentheses, or if I forward it to someone else, it'll show sometimes their name, and then it'll show the actual email address. So it just depends on the server that you might be using. All right, here's another one. I know that little guy. All right, I'm gonna blow this up at the top. Now, who's this supposed to come from? All right, so let's see what it says here. So I've right-clicked on the top where it says Geico, and what email address is that? Exactly, that is not geico.com. And so I don't know what they wanted from me, but I'm certainly not gonna click anything in this particular email to get to it.
So you would immediately delete it?
I could immediately delete it, but we'll talk about what we can do with it in just a few minutes. But yes, that's one thing you can do, is just immediately delete it. All right? Let's see here. Who's this coming from? All right, I'm gonna blow that up at the top.
This is common.
So now, where it says package notification, I'm gonna right click on that so you can see what it says. Real or fake? Who said fake? And why did you say fake?
Well, it's not coming from, FedEx.
It's not coming from FedEx.com. You see what's after that @ sign? Best at bestsurveyrewards.com. Does that make sense to everyone? And so they want me, of course, to click here to update my information so that they can get my package to me. And had I clicked, I would not have gone to FedEx. I would have gone to whoever they wanted to send me to. But again, it doesn't say FedEx.com when I hit package notification. All right? So, what do I do with these emails? So, there's a few things. So, when you get these emails, again, they're fishing for information, they're fishing for account information, whether it's personal information, whatever information they can get about you, because the more information they have about you, the easier it is for them to scam you. And so, if we get one of these emails, question yourself, do I have a relationship with this organization? Meaning, I get emails from who are McAfee, the people that's supposed to monitor your computer for viruses. I get emails from McAfee all the time. I don't have a relationship with McAfee. I get emails from PayPal all the time. I don't have a relationship with PayPal. So ask yourself, do I even have a relationship with these folks? I don't have an account with any of these folks. The next thing is, whatever happens, don't click on any links. Don't download any documents. If they have a link for you and you want to see for sure where that link goes, whatever you do, don't click on it. If you've seen some links, it'll actually show you the full email address. But then some links will say something like, click here, and the email address is hidden behind the here part. And so if you click on it, they can put anything they want behind that part that you can see. Meaning, even if it has a full email address, I can redirect that address myself to anywhere I want it to go. So even though it tells you, oh, you're going to the Apple website, I can put any address behind that and send you wherever I want you to go. Yes, sir?
Yeah, don't click on the link, but is there any consequence of just opening the email to see what in the world this is?
Great question. So if you get the email in your box, he's asking, is there any consequence of just opening the email? Opening the email is usually pretty safe. So just kind of, you know how you get the little lineup of mail, if you click on the mail where you can read it, that's usually pretty safe. But if there's anything in the body of the email, you don't want to click on it, especially if you don't know who it is. Don't open or download any documents. So I used to work, the company I used to work at, I got an email from someone inside the company who I knew, but I didn't work with. He was in one of the other departments, and I knew who he was, and he sent me, well, he didn't send it to me, it was a scammer. They had gotten into our email account. And so it was a scammer, but sent it in this guy's name. And like I said, I knew the guy, and the email said, hey, here's the document that I need you to open and review it and send it back to me. And so because, like I said, I knew who he was, but he wasn't in my department and I never really had any type of, work with him, I immediately wrote him back and said, are you sure you sent this to the right person? Why'd you send this to me? He goes, oh yeah, I need you to look at it and review it. And then the light bulb went off and I took it back to our IT department. And my IT director was like, we're glad you didn't open it. Somebody else just got this and opened it, and it downloaded a virus onto their computer. And so, but the fact that this gentleman, again, because I knew him and I didn't really work with him directly in our department, was really the big red flag for me. But what would have happened if it would have come from someone in my department? I likely would have clicked on that because I kind of thought I knew who it was. And they would have downloaded that information to my computer instead of, the other person's. So we don't want to click or download anything if we don't know who it's coming from. But there's a place where you can forward it. There's a group that's called the APWG, Anti-Phishing Work Group. And basically what they do is they examine emails like this to try to see where they're coming from, to try to see what kind of tactics scammers are using so that they can help figure out. So if you ever have a software update from your software provider, so if you have Apple sends you the Apple updates. If you have Microsoft, they send you updates to your computers regularly. A lot of times those updates are safety features. And so when scammers figure out viruses to break into your computers, they figure out protections to protect against those viruses. So when you get one of those updates, you always want to update your computer. I remember a few years ago, maybe a decade ago, I didn't understand this whole update thing, and I'm thinking every time they update it messes up my computer. Not realizing they're sending safety updates. So I have like 5 or 6 updates lined up that I never communicated with and updated my computer, which made my computer more vulnerable. So whenever you get one of those software updates from your software provider, then you want to update because they're sending safety features. And this group, the Anti-Phishing Work Group, is one of the groups that helps figure out what the scammers are doing. They share that information with all the companies in the IT world, and they're able to create protections from the viruses that the scammers are using. And so that email address up there says reportphishing@apwg.org. Phishing is spelled with a PH instead of an F. Now, is that required? Do you have to do that? No, you don't have to do that. You don't even have to delete the email. You can delete it if you like. I've got tons of just junk mail in my box, a lot of it scam mail. I just leave it because if I spent time every day deleting or sending it somewhere, I'd spend all day deleting and sending it somewhere. Yes, sir?
Is there a way to block it?
Great question. Is there a way to block it? What's his question? So, because email addresses you can make up anytime you want to, you can block it, but you spend all day blocking email because as soon as they send you one, they can send it from a different email address tomorrow. In fact, I have a few email accounts, and one of my email accounts, and I'll share this with you, what I always encourage folks to do is I encourage folks to have at least 2 email accounts. So how many people have 2? Great. I keep one for junk mail and one for important stuff. My banking, my credit card information, my mortgage information, my car payment. I keep all of that in one account. And when people say, oh, can you sign up here? Or do you, when you order something off of a website, I use my junk mail account because I know those folks are likely to sell my email address. So I keep my junk mail separate from my important mail. And by doing so, if someone ever breaks into my junk mail account, they never have access to the information for my credit cards and my mortgage and all of the important stuff. And so, yes, sir.
Some email, maybe all, have a rules box. And if you're clever enough to set up a rule that might keep the fishers out, but keep your friends in, does that work?
Yeah, so great question. So he was asking, so you can, there's some smart boxes where you can set up some rules and you can send junk mail to specific boxes where, and even some servers now also have the ability where they recognize junk mail right away and they never send it to your inbox. But then sometimes some of that junk mail still gets through. Some of those scam mails still get through.
But it'll say sometimes, choose a word that we'll center on and we'll get, choosing those words or whatever is sort of tricky.
Yeah, choosing the words are tricky, and it becomes just an exercise in futility because, again, it comes from, you can make up an email address, and you can have 14 different email addresses in the next 10 minutes. And so again, a lot of those times, I keep that junk mail, and I just let it fill up with all that junk. I don't spend time trying to delete it or get rid of it. Maybe once or twice a year, I may select all and delete all. It just depends on, but otherwise, it's sitting there. It's not doing much. And if you do want to get rid of some and not all of it, I think you can go by date and get rid of the oldest ones first and kind of clear up your box if you need to do something like that. Yes, sir.
Can you explain the difference in a type of email that I would guess many of us in this room have gotten? Dear so-and-so, my granddaughter is in dire needs of a check. I don't have the check. Would you send a money order to her or something? I've always assumed that that was a failure in the email system and not in my computer. Can you explain that type of, I guess it's phishing, I don't know.
Yeah, so I think I know what you're asking, but so please correct me if I'm wrong. So it sounds like you've got an email where someone's asking you to provide a payment option for them that they don't have. So whether it's a check or a money order for someone that you know.
But it has information in it that's accurate. My name and I don't know the granddaughter who's in trouble, but other pieces of information that give me enough to know that this is not real.
Gotcha, so it has some correct information
Yeah.
about you, enough that would make you question whether or not it could be legitimate. Great question. So when you think about these scammers are stealing information. They're stealing it, and sometimes they are buying it. So when you have, in the medical world, we know that there are people in doctors' offices that have been prosecuted for selling information right out of doctors' offices. We know about the data breaches that happen. These are people that break into computers and they steal information about you and me and everybody. And so when you get one of those data breach letters, what they'll tell you very specifically is, it seems like this scammer may have gotten away with your username and your password, or your name and your social security number, but they're very specific about what they're telling you, because they're telling you that the scammer got some information, but not all the information. And then what they do is the information they did get, they use that information to legitimize themselves. So whether it's an email that makes you think that they know you, or whether it's a phone call where they say, hey, Mrs. Jones, is this Mrs. Jones? Yes, it is. Mrs. Jones, do you still live at blah, blah, blah? Yes, I do. Is your email address still blah, blah, blah? Yes, it is. So now they've convinced you that they're legitimate, and then they ask you questions. Can you verify your birth date? And you giving them that little piece of information could be giving them enough to scam you or steal from you. And so we say don't answer those questions, but that's how they get that information, where it feels like they know you or that they're familiar with you, to try to convince you that they are legitimate and they want and get you to participate with them. But that's a great question. Yes, sir.
A couple of times we received an email from a person we know, either here at Kendal or in town, with their real email address. But the message is, do you recognize these pictures? Or do you remember this? Well, we see that as red flag and we just, but there isn't any clue up there in the email address.
Great question. So they are able to spoof email addresses the same way they kind of spoof phone numbers now. We talked about spoofing the last time. Spoofing is when they can make that phone number that calls you look like any number they want it to look like. So it may look familiar to you. It may have your same area code and may have the first same 3-digit exchange, making you think, oh, this is someone I know that I didn't program in. Maybe someone from church or someone local trying to get you to pick up the phone. In 2021, they spoofed the Social Security Administration where the phone rang. It was an 800 number, and it said Social Security Administration, having people believe that when they picked up, they were talking to someone from the SSA and started giving out sensitive information. They're able to spoof email addresses as well. And so, as I told you, I got that email from someone inside my company directly from his email address, so it appeared. But they're able to do that as well with anybody's email address. And so, like you said, what they're trying to do, so let's say it was someone that you know here at Kendal, and it says, hey, do you recognize these pictures? The first question you want to ask yourself is, why would this person be sending me pictures to see? And the pictures aren't in the email, there's a link for you to click to get to the pictures. And so they're trying to bait you to click that link. And who knows where that link goes or what that link might do. And so you certainly want to start to question yourself. Or I've got emails where it says, hey, this is a really bad picture of you. You want to check this out. And the first thing you want to do is like, what? Well, I want to see this. But you have to stop and think, who is this person? And, why should I click this link? Like, I certainly don't want to click a link if I don't know where it's going and if I don't trust the person or the situation that they're presenting to me. But that's a great question. Yes, ma'am.
Some companies seem to farm out the function of surveys and things like that. And they look legitimate. You got any tips on how to discriminate?
Yeah, and so we talked about surveys a few minutes ago. And a lot of times the surveys at these companies, it depends on the company. So for example, sometimes hospitals want to do surveys. They may farm it out to a marketing company. Sometimes it may be your doctor's office. CVS, exactly. But sometimes, and places like CVS, and I'm going to make a distinction between for-profit, nonprofit. So hospitals are typically nonprofit, although there's some for-profit hospitals as well. But places like CVS, merchants, they're doing two things. Certainly they want the survey, they want to get feedback from you, but sometimes if you don't read the fine print, they're also telling you that we're collecting your information, and by filling and completing the survey, you give us permission to sell your information to other folks. And so they're farming information. Data and information about people is super, super, super valuable. And so the more information I collect about you, the more I can sell to you. And the more I can sell to you, the more money I make. And so if I get you to fill out a survey, and I get you to put your name and your email address, but also you tell me all the preferences and the things you love and the things you don't love, I can sell that to someone who wants to sell you something, and that's valuable. I never do those surveys. Now, some places I frequent a lot, and I don't mind doing their surveys, like if I take a flight, because I'm a Delta guy, I fly Delta, so Delta sends me, how was your experience? And they already have my information anyway. If they're gonna sell it, they've sold it already. And so, but I want them to know that, this was a terrible flight because my seat was terrible and I didn't get my drink and all the other stuff that I want them to know that happened. So I don't mind doing their surveys, but places like that are places like CVS where I go there every other week, and every other week they send me a survey, then I have a problem with that. And so they do farm it out to other folks, and you just have to decide whether or not you want to participate with that. But know that if you don't read the fine print, that they could be selling the information they collect from you, and which could trigger more junk mail, more surveys, more phone calls, all of that stuff to you. Yes, ma'am.
I keep on getting requests to fill out a survey from the hospital. And, I may have been there for a procedure, and then I get one, and then I'll go for something else, and I'll get another survey. I presume those are legitimate.
Yeah, so the question was, she gets multiple surveys from when she visits the hospital. Those could definitely be legitimate surveys. And a lot of times these hospitals are, again, for-profit, nonprofit, but they are accredited by various bodies. And so if they can show that we've got X amount of customer satisfaction in this area, then so they potentially can get more money. So they rely on these surveys from folks to get feedback, also to make changes, to update or fix things when things would go awry. But also, the more they collect that information, then that positions them where they can sometimes get more money, or they can boast and say that we're the best hospital in the area, and all of that. Whether or not you complete that is really up to you. Looking at some of the information about the survey, who's it coming from, where's it going to, who's it addressed to, will help you determine whether or not it's legitimate and whether or not you should fill it out. Yes, sir.
One more thing. We're getting a lot of emails from Turkey, Mexico, Greece, et cetera. And I found that you could actually block countries on email, and you can block every country in the world, and then you can determine which one or two countries you might accept them from. Could you address that?
Yeah.
Because a lot of these things do come from overseas.
Yeah, so yes, so the question he was asking about blocking emails from specific countries. So depending on the mail server that you have, when you get into your mail server settings, you can go into your settings, and if there are countries where you realize that you shouldn't be getting emails from, then you can block those. And if you look at some of the email addresses, US email addresses are going to be typically .com, .net, .org, .info, but then sometimes you might see something like .uk. Well, that's something that's coming from United Kingdom, or .ca for Canada, or whatever that country might be. And so, yes, you can block some of those emails if you choose to, and that's one way to kind of slow down how many emails are coming to your account. I think I have a couple more slides. Let's talk about what we do if we're a victim of a phishing scam. The first thing we want to do is change passwords. So let's say your Apple account gets hacked, or you click on a link by accident because you thought it was legitimate. The first thing you want to do is go in and change your passwords to your Apple account and update that information so that other people can't do it. The next thing you want to do is contact the company that may have been impersonated. So if you got a scam email from Apple and you end up falling victim to it, then talk to Apple and say, or email to Apple and say, hey, this was a scam that I got caught in and they're imitating your company. What they would do with that information is they'll send out notices and use that information to, one, update systems, but also alert other folks so they don't get caught up in the scam. Run a virus scan on your computer so that you know that if you clicked on a link or downloaded something, that if there's some malware on your computer, your virus scan will tell you that there's malware on there and you can get those things eliminated. And then watch your accounts for identity theft. Just keep a monitor on your accounts that may have been hacked as part of the issue that you might be dealing with, and just look for signs of identity theft. Are there extra transactions on your account? Has information been changed, and have you been locked out of your account? And then finally, you want to report this to the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, at ftc.gov. They collect that information, and again, they use that information in conjunction with Congress and other regulators so they can better regulate the industry. So they can say to companies, this is what you can do and this is what you can't do based on the fraud that we've been seeing. Yes, sir?
I think she was first.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to point out that on the one to the file that you have a mistake. Just change all of you as.
Oh, thank you so much. That's a scam. I will update that. Yes, sir.
And just out of curiosity, you've got ftc.org, is that correct?
You know what? That's a good question.
On the file, because you just said
I did say that, .gov. Now I've got to go back and look it up. You guys are catching all the good stuff. Oh, y'all are sharp. Y'all never fall for scams. I need to take y'all on the road with me. So now I've got two things to correct. I've got two things to look up. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So, other questions? Yes, sir.
Why would you ever use email to fix anything if you have an account with someone? If you get something from Amazon, even if it looks legitimate, why would you do it through email rather than going and logging into your Amazon account and fixing it?
Great question. Why would you ever use the email that they send you instead of just logging into your account? If it's legitimate, they try to make it so you go directly exactly to where it is. So let's say if it's an actual issue and it's an actual email from Amazon, I've checked everything and I know it's from Amazon, the link that they send me probably takes me directly to where I need to go. It's kind of like, I'll give you an example. I'm a Hilton member because I travel a lot. And so Hilton says, hey, we've got a special offer for you. If you book in the month of August, you get an extra 1,000 points, right? So, and then they say, click here to register for this particular reward. If I go into my Hilton account and log in myself, I've got to find that. Because I know it's a legitimate Hilton email, if I click that link, it takes me right to where I need to go to rectify or register for that. And so that's one reason why folks might do that.
Well, it's a question of know or think.
Say more.
In other words, you know it's a legitimate account or you think it's a legitimate account.
Exactly.
Unless you're positive you want to go into your account.
Exactly. So, good point. Whether you know for sure that's legitimate or have questions about the legitimacy of the email, then you, again, if you ever have questions about the legitimacy of the email, you don't want to click on anything that's in the email. You want to go outside of that email. Great point. Thank you, sir. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
I've been getting almost daily emails from iCloud saying that my account is going to be discontinued and blah, blah, blah. I don't have an account, but it's getting annoying. Is there any way to just stop it, to put a stop?
If you get multiple emails from the same email address every day, then you can block that particular email address. I will get multiple emails from the same server, but the address is different. And so I can block that server so that I get no more from that, but blocking each individual email address becomes tedious because then I'm blocking every single address. But if you don't have a relationship with that particular organization, then that's a big red flag that it's a scam. And then, like I said, you can probably block that address if it's the same address. All right? With that said, thank you guys for your time. I appreciate it. And